Good afternoon. Welcome to the Moore County Board of Education regular business meeting for Tuesday, November 12th. Do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move the board enter closed session to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel information pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A1, A5, and A6, and General Statute 115C-319, and to consult with the board attorney and preserve the attorney-client privilege pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A3.
Any questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. We'll be back at 6:30.
All y'all hear that now?
Call the meeting back to order. Welcome. Nice to see all of you out here on a cold and frigid day, our first of many, I imagine. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. And I understand we have some Aberdeen Elementary School students
In principle.
and principal. Mr. Poole?
Mr. Poole missed his cue.
You're on.
Mr. Poole.
Here's Dante.
Good evening. Good evening. Dante Poole, the proud principal of Aberdeen Elementary School. I have two awesome students with me today. Mr. Najee Gillis, who's going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and the beautiful Tajay Barnes, who's going to do our moment of inspiration. You ready? Well, handle your business, man. Go ahead.
Would you please stand to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. When I go to school in the morning, I'm inspired by our Tiger Declaration. Our Tiger Declaration, it's like, I don't even know how to explain it. Okay, it tells me to work. It helps me wake up in the morning. It lets me know I am somebody, and I was someone when I went there, and I will be a better someone when I leave there. And it just helps me throughout my day.
Could you say it for us?
Could you say it for us?
You're going to do it for them, and you're going to do call and response. So she's going to do the first part, and then you're going to repeat what she says.
Okay.
You ready?
Just
I
like in
am
church.
somebody.
I am somebody.
I was somebody when I came. I'll be a better somebody when I leave. I am responsible for the education that I get here.
I am responsible for the education I get here.
I have things to do, people to impress, and places to go. I am powerful, and I am strong, because I am somebody.
Thanks, sir. Are there parents here?
Yes.
Parents.
How am I supposed to go after that, right? Can we please join me in a moment of silence? Thank you. Chris Pierce, is he here today? There he is. Chris Pierce, please join Chair Wallen Miller and Vice Chair Carter at the front. Chris Pierce from Westmore Elementary is this month's Engage, Inspire, Succeed Certified Staff Honoree. Mr. Pierce is currently a math teacher, tennis coach, Beta Club sponsor, Heritage Community Creator, Fall Festival Committee Chair, lead mentor, and church choir director. He's also, that means he's going to, should I sing this?
No.
He is also a former English, social studies, and science teacher, basketball coach, and teacher of the year. Great job. If you ask students which teacher they would they would want to have is Mr. Pierce. If you ask a group of Northmore students which teacher they remember the most from middle school, it's Mr. Pierce. When you go to a ball game and see a group of students huddled together in a circle on the bleachers, you'll find Mr. Pierce in the middle of that huddle because the relationships he has built, period, at the end of that one. Westmore is honored and proud to celebrate Mr. Chris Pierce as Certified Staff Member of the Month. Congratulations, Mr. Pierce. Members of Pierce's family here today, or Principal Hussey, please stand to be recognized too.
We love you, man.
Thanks, Chris.
No, you gotta sing. Is Miss Jane here? There she is. Jane shrugs. Please join Chair Wallen Miller and Vice Chair Carter. Jane Shrugs from Pinehurst Elementary is this month's Engage, Inspire, Succeed Support Staff honoree. Mrs. Shrugs has been a part of the Dolphin family for over a decade, first serving as a teacher assistant and then the past 5 years as the school's bookkeeper. Ms. Shrugs exhibits the commitment to students that is expected at Pinehurst Elementary. She is also providing stability and calm, as well as ensuring the school's financial requirements are in good order. That's good. Ms. Shrugs takes significant pride in caring for others, thinking ahead to possible needs, and handling many tasks at one time. And sneaking in treats for staff and students. You didn't do that when I worked there. You were assistant back then, though, so things were different. She does this all with kindness that is obvious to all who have the privilege of working with her in any capacity. Miss Shrugs exudes, thank you. The welcoming, I even had it written down, a welcoming and loving spirit of Pinehurst Elementary School, and is an excellent example to those around her. Congratulations, Miss Shrugs. Members of Miss Shrugs' family, please stand and be recognized. And Ashley Saccone.
Thanks, Jane.
Sean Welch, please join Chair Wallen Miller and Vice Chair Carter at the front. Sean Welch from Northmore High School is this month's Engage, Inspire, Succeed volunteer honoree. Miss Welch is one of those folks who works behind the scenes to ensure everything runs smoothly and that all Northmore students are taken care of each day. She regularly supports the band, is a member of the Northmore Athletic Boosters, and organizes all pre-game meals and halftime snacks for the JV and varsity football team. Ms. Welch is someone Northmore High School can count on to provide continual, ongoing support. Everyone at this is hard for me today. Everyone at Northmore appreciates her and all that she does to support Mustang Country. Congratulations, Ms. Welch. Members of Mrs. Welch's family, please stand. And Principal, I did see her, Principal Purvis, please stand here. Thank you. I like your pose. AJ, hi, Miss. Please join us with Chair Wallen Miller and Vice Chair Carter at the front. AJ is a senior at Pinecrest High School and is this month's Engage, Inspire, Succeed student honoree. AJ serves as a teacher's assistant in 2 different classes. She was recommended and volunteered without hesitation to assist a student who is in English as a second language learner in Miss Bishop's chemistry class 3 days a week. AJ helps the student follow along with a PowerPoint on her computer while listening to the lecture. She helps the student work out problems on paper while asking her questions and guiding her. This is remarkable because AJ has never taken chemistry and is learning the material, so she's able to better assist the student. She also makes herself available outside of school to answer the students' questions about assignments. In her sophomore year, AJ was involved in a car accident that severely damaged her spine. However, she continues to show perseverance while having a smile on her face always. Congratulations, AJ. Members of Hernandez family and Principal Phillips and Kathy Hopkins, please stand and be recognized. That's going above and beyond, so thank you very much. We do have a few more from, I guess this was from last month. Brandy, is Brandy here? Morales? I'm sorry, Morales Abella. Forgot it. Please join us. Brandy is a senior at Northmore High School and was October Engage, Inspire, Succeed student honoree. She was on the homecoming court and was at the homecoming parade the night of October's meeting. So we would like to take the time to recognize her now. Brandy exemplifies the Mustang way in all she does. She is a stellar student and completed her certified nursing assistant coursework and certification with an A average last summer. She is the president of the Future Health Professions HOSA, is vice president of her senior class, serves as secretary for the Spanish Club, and is an active member of Future Business Leaders of America, Random Acts of Kindness, and the Kiwanis Key Club. I don't know where you have the time for all that. She can be seen with the Marching Mustangs color guard in the fall and on the soccer field in the spring. In her free time, she works at Chick-fil-A and volunteers in her church, community, and school. Brandy, along with a few classmates, organized a soccer tournament this summer that raised thousands of dollars for her classmate, Jordan Hernandez, who is battling brain cancer. On September 19th, she also helped in a large way with Jordan Strong Night during a home soccer game to honor and recognize Jordan, who was not able to play this year. Brandy also puts others first, and Mustang Country is blessed to have her as a member of the Mustang family each day. Congratulations, Brandy. And members of her family and Principal Curtis can stand to be recognized as well. You made, congratulations. That's awesome. And is the women's golf team here today?
Yep.
Oh, come on up. I have Jacqueline Kenzel, Mariah Hurdle, and Kinson O'Neill. On Tuesday, October 29th, the Pinecrest women's golf team won the North Carolina State 4A championship at Pinehurst No. 5, competing against 11 teams and 78 other golfers. Senior Jacqueline Kenzel placed first in the field, shooting a 2-day 2 under par 142. Senior Mariah Hurdle finished, it says it right there. Mara Hurdle finished third individually with an even pair, 144 after 2 days. Freshman Kiston, did I say it right? Finished her 2 rounds with a score of 164. With a total of 450, the Lady Pirates finished 5 strokes in front of the runner-up. Oh, what did I say? I need to drop the mic and just go home today.
Patriots.
You know what it was? It was, I really wanted you guys to be paying attention. I'm glad you are. All right, so I'm going to re-say that. The Lady Patriots finished 5 strokes in front of the runner-up. Most of the other teams at the championship had 5 players, but the Pinecrest team only qualified a team of 3. Even so, they made the NCHSAA record book for the lowest state champion score ever for 3 scores counting. That's awesome. Congratulations, ladies, and members of their family and Principal Phillips. Please stand. Oh, Coach Bleacher and Coach Wainwright, please stand to be recognized. And I know you guys are sad that I'm leaving this speaking.
Our
but
turn.
my time is over.
I've been looking forward to this. Congratulations. Patriot pride forever.
Pirate time forever.
Okay, look at future ECUers.
Yeah, see, there you are.
Thank you. There's our record thing too. It's on this page. Yeah. Hi, Chris.
That's awesome.
And more.
Congratulations.
And thank you again.
That is awesome.
I think that's my favorite part, is recognizing our students and our staff. So what a, always such a delight to see them in person here. So thank you for coming, and be safe on your way home. All right, Dr. Grimacy.
Madam Chair, it's my privilege to introduce Dr. Powers and Ms. Dedman. Just Dr. Powers tonight.
On my own.
All right, we've got both names on the summary here, but Dr. Powers
Is representing.
is very capable. Sir,
Ms.
take it
Dedman
away.
Ms. Dedman is in Pennsylvania. Her plane was delayed, so she could not make it back, so I will do my best to cover in her stead for her part. All right. I appreciate the opportunity to share with what the district has done and what we plan to do in the future as we continue on Moore County Schools' journey toward equity. We were very deliberate in our choice of words for our title for our presentation this evening, including the word journey. One definition of journey is a long trip that may be arduous, with discoveries made along the way. Equity work is a journey. It's neither quick nor easy, but is a worthwhile endeavor. The vast majority of schools in all states across the nation have issues related to equity and race-based disparities in such areas as academic performance and discipline. Moore County Schools is not immune, as demonstrated by key outcomes related to student discipline that were shared as a part of the recent strategic plan update at the November 4th board work session. Specifically, Objective 2 from our strategic plan, which is, and that's from Domain 2, Student Safety, Health, and Welfare, is focused on work to improve race-based discipline disparities and promote equity in our schools. So, why does equity matter? National research shows minority students have increased suspension rates and fewer advanced academic opportunities. National research also shows these factors can have long-term impacts on students, including lower graduation rates, higher incarceration rates, poor health outcomes, and perpetuation of generational poverty. So, what does equity in Moore County Schools look like? The demographics don't match the data. The racial breakdown of Moore County Schools in 2018-19 was 63% white, 16% African American, and 14% Hispanic. When looking at our Moore County Schools discipline data, white students are underrepresented, black students are overrepresented, and Hispanic students are represented as appropriate according to the district's demographics. As an example, although black students only made up 16% of our Moore County Schools population in 2018-19, they accounted for 40% of office referrals, 43% of suspension consequences, and approximately 53% of charges by Moore County Schools police. Conversely, white students, who make up 63% of the population, only account for approximately 40% of referrals, suspension consequences, and charges. Although the trend across all races for discipline referrals, suspension consequences, and charges has seen a steady trend of decrease over the past 3 years, the percentage of discipline disparity between black and white students has remained generally constant and unchanged. Disparities between black and white students are also evident in relation to academic performance, as there are achievement gaps in most content areas, as well as disparities in the number of minorities taking honors, AP, and college courses. So now the real question is, okay, what are we doing about it? Let's look at that. So some strategies that that are underway in Moore County Schools to impact equity. As a district and at individual schools, we're reviewing and analyzing data at minimum on a quarterly basis, utilizing Educator's Handbook in all schools as a consistent online tool for recording and tracking discipline data. As a district, we continue to focus on building stronger systems of support for all students, as well as targeting struggling students through tiered interventions as a part of multi-tiered systems of support, or better known as MTSS. We also continue to focus on positive behavior interventions and supports, or PBIS strategies, which have been proven to have a positive impact on equity issues. We have provided specific professional development to principals and central office staff around raising equity awareness, understanding implicit bias, and recognizing vulnerable decision points when making discipline-related decisions. As we ended the 2018-19 school year and prepared for the current 2019-20 school year, it was evident that our administrators were ready to move beyond awareness and strategies that could be offered by our Student Support Services Office. We needed the assistance of some equity professionals. To that end, during the 2019-20 school year, we have enlisted the support and services of a team of professors from Western Carolina University with both education and social justice backgrounds to provide equity training for administrators. These 4 professors spent a full day last May touring Moore County schools with myself as well as Ms. Dedman in order to become more familiar with our district and to develop training based on our specific equity-related needs. The training is targeted for principals, assistant principals, and central office administration. Training sessions have occurred on July 31st, September 12th and 13th, and November 8th, with future sessions scheduled for January 24th and March 12th and 13th. In addition to continuing to build an awareness and knowledge base around equity issues and ideology, the training is also focusing on supporting administrators to target one equity concern at their school as a problem of practice during this school year. Administrators and select staff developed a problem of practice around an equity issue specific to their school, and each principal has organized an equity team on their campus to assist with implementing the problem of practice. In order to identify where to focus their efforts, principals and equity teams looked at their school data to include but not limited to academic achievement, discipline, social-emotional learning outcomes, climate and culture outcomes, youth risk behavior outcomes, and exceptional children. Schools who have existing disparities between black and white students were asked to focus on one of those areas. Once an area of focus was determined, schools performed a causal analysis exercise and then mapped a theory of improvement by developing immediate and ultimate aim statements, identifying primary drivers, as well as change ideas related to each primary driver to be implemented throughout the school year. Some examples of individual school problems of practice related to racial disparities are Union Pines, who is focusing on disparities in advanced coursework between white and black students. Northmore High School is focusing on disparities in suspension consequences between white and black students. Southern Pines Elementary is focusing on disparities in EC identification related to their black males. And not only are the schools engaged in this problem of practice, but our student academics and student support service team is as well. And as a team, we're focusing on disparities in overall district discipline data for the year. Where do we hope to go from here with our continued equity work? Well, moving forward, our desire is to continue this work with administrators in order to build capacity toward eliminating our racial disparities in our schools. We also hope to expand this work to teachers to build awareness and equity around equity issues and provide them with similar knowledge to impact inequity. We're working over the course of this year to review our Moore County School Student Code of Conduct to determine if there is a need for any revision. This work will involve and incorporate feedback from administrators, school staff, parents, and we've already begun the process of reviewing feedback with students as a part of our Superintendent Student Advisory Council. We also want to continue to explore possible restorative justice practices that might be implemented as alternative consequences to suspension. Some examples of this that we already have that we're already doing in Moore County include our Moore County Schools Police Second Chance program, as well as Teen Court, which is run through the Moore County Department of Juvenile Justice. Both those programs are for first-time offenders, which allow those students to complete a specified program through Second Chance or Teen Court. they do that, then their charges are dropped and their record is clear. So exploring other types of restorative justice practices other than suspending or charging. So that completes a walk through our journey to this point toward equity in Moore County Schools. We look forward to continuing that journey and doing other things. As I said, it's heavy work. It's not easy and it's not quick. It's a process, but we continue to embrace that and we continue to look for ways to improve. So this time I'll take any comments or questions from the board.
Or any feedback?
Is there anything that, from the training that you've already had, have you heard anything from the schools about what impact it's had? It might be a little early, but has there been any impact or feedback that you've gotten from the schools that have had the training?
Yeah, I will say this, we're at a point with our problems of practice. We just had our most recent training on the 8th. We started to talk about progress monitoring a bit, but I can say in looking at some of our discipline outcomes for the first quarter, which just ended at the end of October compared to last year, we see some positive things with a few schools and where they focus. So it does seem to be having some impact, which is very positive.
With your examples you gave us, Union Pines, Northmore, and Southern Pines Elementary, all very interesting examples. Did you see these same things pop up at other places, or did each school seem to have a different goal they wanted to adopt for the year?
One thing that we liked about what the team from Western Carolina brought here, they didn't come with kind of a package deal for us, and we love the fact that they showed enough interest to want to come spend a full day here in Moore County Schools to get to know our community and some of our campuses. So what we found is, although there are some schools that have some similar problems of practice, for the most part, they're kind of different. They're individual to each campus depending on what their particular equity issues are.
I'd like to mention that too. I know the Second Chance program we've had for several years, and when I checked with the chief a couple of years ago, their success ratio was 80%. 80% of the ones that went through, they never saw again while they were in school. So,
And that's a great point, Mr. Dennis. And I'll also share too that of our students who are charged, 70% have the opportunity to either go through either Second Chance or teen court. So 70% of those students who are charged have the opportunity to have those charges dropped and the record clear. Mm-hmm.
And that was going to be my comment, Ed, to give them an opportunity to stay in school. And the steps that you're taking to do that is just crucial, I believe.
Taking something negative and turning it into a positive is huge. And I would also comment on the PBIS. It's a wonderful program, and I've seen a lot of benefits to it, but I think one thing that maybe we could even work on as a whole is explaining it more to the parents and community out, because I know a lot of parents that don't know what it is. They go, "What's PBIS? What is that?" I just think maybe even it could go by school, but I just have a lot of questions on that, on what it is and what it's all about.
And PBIS actually has some specific strategies related toward equity, kind of a 5-step approach that we've also covered with our administrators to share that with them, beyond just what you might normally think of as PBIS, which has also been excellent. But you're right, communication is key in helping people to understand why it's important and what it can do for us.
Excuse me, what kind of training is going to be given to the teachers? You said expand equity work and training to teachers.
So moving forward, that is a step that we hope to take at some point. We're not sure exactly when that might be.
Okay.
What we found is that, again, initially we thought this work might move a little bit faster, but you learn quickly that that's not the case. And me being naive sometimes, I've learned that as well. So, but we do want to do that. We're not sure exactly what that might look like yet, and what resources we might use to bring that to our teachers. We do think it's important to have, people who are familiar with teaching equity and training on equity, to bring that to our teachers and staff, but we'll continue to explore that and see how we'll do that.
Dr. Powers, if I could add to that, Dr. Brown, if you look at each of the schools whose principals were willing to be cited, and I want to applaud Andy McCormick and Jenny Purvis and Tanya Wagner for their willingness to put out in public what it is their focus of their problem of practice. And each of our principals now are going beyond just talking rhetorically about equity and rhetorically about disparity and saying, this is a measure that we're going to commit to. And if we don't get it, we're going to have to explain to somebody. And as they develop their strategy to address this problem of practice, the question comes up of what type of professional development we need. If you go school by school and look at disparity and issues of equity, you're going to see variation from school to school. So the one-size-fits-all training for everybody isn't necessarily the most effective approach. So with the problem of practice model, there's going to be some variation in how we approach it. And I think that if you just look at these three approaches, you're going to have three different methodologies of training. And so I'm glad that we're not in a big rush just to jam some canned program out there, but to really take the long view. These problems have been in existence for a long time, and true solutions are going to require a long-term commitment, not
And
just a
that's-
flash in the pan.
That's why I was asking, because any type of professional development, one size does not fit all.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I'm glad to see that we're still in the planning stages. So I commend the staff for that, because, again, not everyone sees things the same way, nor do they have the same problems.
And a
Disparities.
critical first step as a part of this for, obviously for our administrators and for anyone, is awareness. And that's kind of where we are and where we've been, and that's, and when we do move forward and take this out to our teachers and our staff, that'll be a critical starting point for them as well, you know.
I would also like to mention the Community Learning Center. I think they're making great strides there. The improvement in graduation rate with the students at the Community Learning Center is been significant the past couple of years, and very much appreciated.
Any other comments? Questions? Thank you so much. It was really helpful also to have this the week after we had our health and safety domain review. And so this was a helpful to hear what is happening next. So thank you. All right, next on our agenda is the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, move the consent agenda be approved.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Are there any questions, comments? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Ms. Carter, do we have any public address?
We have just one speaker this evening. Just a reminder that time is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Our sole speaker tonight is Anthony McCauley. So the podium is yours.
I have my knee replacement. Bear with me. Along with what Dr. Powers was saying, I'm going to continue right along into what I had to say was, we got to get ready for what's getting ready to take effect on December the 1st with Raise the Age. Okay, with the school justice partnerships across North Carolina have already sparked an interest, especially in Mecklenburg County and some other counties. The School Justice Partnership is an initiative managed by the North Carolina Judicial Branch's Administrative Office of the Courts, whose goal is to reduce the number of juvenile referrals to the court system through collaboration by school resource officers, school officials, and representatives of the courts. It only makes sense that when we're able to move cases out of the juvenile court or make it such that support comes through schools, that we're looking at implementing programs to handle nonviolent offenses. Last week, sitting at home in my home office, I received 5 or 6 calls of parents about some issues that I felt like, but it's all hearsay, that should have been handled at the school, but a kid was charged with an offense that, now he has this on his record, and it's going to follow him throughout the school year. And throughout, I don't know how that process works, but I personally think we could handle it at the school without being charged with criminal offenses. North Carolina Supreme Court Chief Justice Sherry Beasley stated, when a student is referred to the juvenile justice system, they are less likely to finish high school, more likely to repeat a grade, and will be more likely to be charged with criminal offenses as an adult. Governor Roy Cooper says that our communities must engage with kids to help keep them in school and out of jail. I looked at the 5-year trend analysis in Moore County on the NC Court's website, and it showed school-based offenses in Moore County has decreased from fiscal year 13-14, started out at 58%, where fiscal year 17-18 is only 35%. So it does tell me that I think we're getting reduction in recidivism, but I'm getting more than 35% calls. There's so much more to add to this, and my time is clicking, but I've just recently built an impact program to add into my program as well. Impact is I'm making positive action changes today, and it's going to be for those high schools that need, instead of sending them home for something minor, send them to the impact program. Because as soon as you send them home, they got free time at home to go do things, sit at home and get in more trouble. Impact is based off the Y-Tri curriculum that I've already had national exposure with. I already bought the programming for the Y-Tri curriculum. I can't do it by myself, but I do have a program built in place so those kids won't be thrown out on the street. They do deserve, some of them just don't have a clue, and they make these stupid decisions, and they get charged with it. But I think some of those charges are too to the extreme that can be handled a different way. So thank you.
Thanks, Anthony.
And that concludes public address.
Thank you. Do we need a break, or are we good?
I'm good.
Staff is prepared
Okay,
to move on.
We're good, let's go. We have a few board action items today. Dr. Grimacy.
Yeah, I'll invite Dr. Locklear to the podium. Madam Chair, we devoted a substantial amount of time to presentations of plans of improvement for our low-performing schools last week. It was cited as a board action because of its priority with the board and the potential for any final questions board members might have. Dr. Locklear is not here with another presentation. We discussed this in great detail, but he is here to answer any final questions you might have. As you can see, this action item is presented with a recommendation for the superintendent that you authorize the administration to invite public input. That's not approval of the plans, but that you simply invite public input on the district's preliminary plan and the 4 schools' preliminary plans of improvement.
Mr. Locklear, I appreciated the information we received of what we saw last week. It gives us, as board members, information that we can, and then we always turn it over to the principals when parents call, but it gives us some insight and some ways of helping answer some questions. So thank you very much for providing that information for us.
Yes, ma'am. Our pleasure.
Yeah, and I would have to say too, the comment that was made a lot last week was just because they don't pass the test doesn't mean they don't show growth, and that is very true in a lot of people. So that really stuck with me.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Do we need to read the motion first?
I just did.
Oh, you did?
You just
Okay.
did.
Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much, Dr. Locklear.
With your permission, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Item B is community response to the proposed name of the Northmore High School Science Wing. With this, this carries a recommendation from me that you actually designate. So this title probably could have been changed here. It's under board action. Tonight, you are not seeking a community response. You are actually, you've already had the community response report at the work session. So tonight, this is a motion. By reading the executive summary, you can see that you are actually acting on that community input, which was very substantial in support of the recommendation to name the science wing at the new Northmore High School addition after Charles Richard Lambert, and that it would be, with your approval, designated as the Charles Richard Lambert Science Wing in memory of our beloved school board member, Mr. Charles Lambert. Acknowledge David's presence here this evening. Thank you very much for being here tonight, David. Dr. Seth Powers made the presentation. He's available to answer any questions on the public input, and I'm certainly, and any of you all can answer questions regarding Mr. Lambert's worthiness for this. And I certainly recommend and hope that you will act on a motion to so designate that wing.
Madam Chair and board colleagues, I would like to just take this opportunity to actually read some of the information that was presented at the forums that was held at Northmore. And the title is Every Child Deserves a Champion. Every child deserves a champion and an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists that they become the best that they can possibly be. And this was a quote that was included by Rita Pearson. And it reads that Mr. Charles Richard Lambert was a champion to his family, friends, co-workers, fellow board members, and especially his students. In honor and memory of this champion, we request that the Science Wing at Northmore be named after Charles Richard Lambert for outstanding dedication and services to the students and staff of Moore County Schools. Charles graduated in '65, which was the last senior class at Elise High School. And that fall, Northmore opened welcoming students from Elise, Westmore, High Falls, and Pinckney. He continued his education, earning an associate's degree at Sand Hills Community College, bachelor's and degree in biology, and then a master's in school administration at Appalachian State University. He began his teaching career at West End School and then served as a principal in the elementary, middle, high school levels in Moore County. He retired in 2000 after 31 years in education. But his education journey did not stop. He went on to work for Moore County students, teachers, family, and running for Moore County Board in 2002, representing District 3. Charles did not stop there. He became chairman of the board, serving on the Moore County School Policy Committee as well as the Facilities Liaison. He received the Governor's Outstanding Volunteer Award and was recognized as West End School Teacher of the Year and Moore County Principal of the Year, and even served as Sand Hills Community College trustee for 9 years. He was a devoted servant of our students and an uncompromising advocate for public schools. And it gives me great honor and pleasure to make a motion to name the Northmore High Science Wing after Charles Richard Lambert.
It's an honor for me to second that motion.
Any other further conversation? It is an honor for me as well. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, David, for sharing him with us.
We miss him dearly.
With your permission, Madam Chair?
Yes.
The superintendent is requesting that the board consider this additional item under board action, which is authorization to use lottery funds for IT infrastructure. It will, if the board pleases, it will require that the board waive first reading and consider a motion to approve allocation of $744,500 from the North Carolina Lottery Fund balance for the refresh of technology infrastructure and to postpone whatever priority capital projects may be necessary to offset that expense. I just want to make it clear up front where I'd like you to consider. And so with that, I'll ask Mr. Barath to provide you with a summary of how it is we come to this recommendation. Mr. Barath.
Thank you, Dr. Gramercy. Good evening. As far back as March 5th, 2018, staff had presented to the board the critical need at our schools for the technology infrastructure and the upcoming refresh requirement of end-of-life and failing systems. This is a system-wide issue throughout the entire district. You have teachers throughout grade levels 4 through 12, as well as a majority of those in kindergarten through third that rely on connectivity to access base content and curriculum in what they do each and every day in our schools, as well as access the students' work itself. We also rely on it from a central standpoint of operations, because the majority of what we do relies on the connectivity to everything outside of us. We rely on it to make reports to the state and federal agencies. We rely on it for payroll. That's very important. We rely on it for making repair requests, building automation systems, child nutrition sales. It goes on and on and on, our needs. This, without a doubt, means that our technology access must be reliable and dependable each and every day of operation. The projected cost of the refresh is just over $1.3 million. Pardon me, I'm still getting over a cold. Staff had identified available E-rate funding in the amount of $557,000 available to apply towards this critical need. That would leave $744,500 of local or North Carolina lottery funds to complete the work that needs to be done out there for these schools. The E-rate funding comes with a string tied to it, though. It must be, all items that the E-rate support must be in place and fully operational by September 30th of 2020, right after school starts up, or those funds revert back to the federal agency. We do not get a second chance. In order to meet this time need, we need to have everything received that needs to be installed by March 1st of 2020. We have limited windows of opportunities to install these devices throughout all our schools and its central office without disrupting instruction and operations. So we have made this request in presentation to the Board of Commissioners for additional local supplement of the $744,500 on three occasions, January and May and October of this year. To date, we have not received any supplemental local funding for this dire need. Current North Carolina allocation, unallocated funds are just over $1.7 million. The board will recall that is recent.
Excuse me, John, I purposefully got rid of the word unallocated and used the word fund balance, and I want to make sure you understand why I said that.
That is correct.
Those
yes.
funds are absolutely allocated.
Yes, they are.
Every dime of local capital expense and lottery money for the next 20 years is allocated. The question is, can we actually use it for the purposes it's intended? This technology infrastructure need was not included in that list, and it was our hope that we would not have to defer other projects. So this is from our NC Lottery fund balance, which was being accrued for a specific purpose. It is most definitely allocated.
Yes, it is. And I
Okay, we're
apologize.
just talking about reallocating it to something else. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And took me just seconds to remember what I just
Second
said.
bullet.
Like a minute, so-
You're on the second bullet. Yeah. Yeah, the amount of money,
So-
that fund balance consisted of $1,728,446. And then you were going to talk about what it had previously been allocated for.
And so, as Dr. Graham explained, yes, our lottery funds are always applied to our most urgent capital project needs at our existing schools and maintenance upgrade features at our existing schools. They are already planned, as has been presented to the board on numerous occasions. And as most recently as September, the board approved the special set aside of a hedge amount of just over $1.7 million against the cost of the three elementary schools under construction: Aberdeen, Southern Pines, and Pinehurst. And so by using these funds for the technology need would reduce the amount of available funds set up against a hedge on those projects. The North Carolina Lottery is not a predictable amount of funding that we're going to know we're going to get each and every year. It fluctuates every year. You'll recall, in its origins, it began just over $1.6 million. 2 years ago, it was about $850,000. It was just about $900,000 last year. So for the purpose of planning, we are estimating that for this forthcoming distribution year, we're going to receive about $860,000. So that would mean they also come quarterly installments, and they're not equal installments every time either. They vary on how much comes quarterly within there. But as Dr. Grimley said, they always go to our most urgent needs. And as has been presented to the board recently was our full list of how we were going to use our lottery funds and our capital funds that we receive each and every year on upcoming projects. And these identified 8 projects are the most urgent, dire needs of our schools. And so through this funding solution that we're proposing today, this will delay the implementation of this work on these schools and that need to be done. $744,500 worth of the work. And so, as you can see, by $860,000 coming in a year, it will take the better part of a year till we can even begin some of this work. So, due to the critical need, this is our condition. You've seen this slide before at our schools. Due to the critical need to begin the technology infrastructure refresh across all schools and to sustain the classroom instruction and other essential operations, along with available E-rate funding and a sunset clause tied to that will revert it back to the federal government if not used, without any additional supplemental local funding to cover this request, it is recommended by staff that the board consider, 1, to postpone the capital projects as an offset for the $744,500 needed for the upgrade of the technology infrastructure, and 2, that they approve the North Carolina Lottery request to allocate the same amount to the technology infrastructure refresh, which we will then present to the Board of Commissioners for their approval. I'm available along
But
with...
why don't you first go ahead and explain the slide that you have up there?
Yeah, just to.
Yeah.
Kent Eklund has presented this numerous times to the board, and he is here with any specific questions you may have to respond to them. You can see, as all our charts we ever present, green is good, red is bad. And you can see in the highlighted year in the blue around it, that is this current 1920 year where we obviously have a critical need. All schools, with the exception of 2, have end-of-life or failed systems in this year. And without anything, you can see how quickly that changes in the forthcoming years to be catastrophic across all schools and operations. With the plan in place, you can see we can set up a purposeful plan that can then rejuvenate, refresh as needed in the years coming, and how we will maintain access to all core elements of instruction and operations.
If the board approves and authorizes the staff to move forward with this, what's the next step?
As I mentioned, the next step will then go to the Board of Commissioners on the 19th of November for their approval of the lottery fund request.
But essentially, the commissioners are simply approving a change within our existing funds. This is not additional money. This is them just giving approval for us to use lottery funds for one purpose instead of another.
Lottery funds are distributed to the county commissioners, not directly to the Board of Education. The county commissioners receive the funds, and then they issue the payments to the vendors and things as we submit the invoices to them. So they are the gateway keepers of the funds when they are received.
And after the county commissioners, we would hope, would approve that request, how long then before you can actually access, you and Mr. Eklund can access that money and actually start using it to purchase these, the equipment and the materials that need to be in place by March 1? What has to happen after?
The state will receive the request, which will be signed and executed by both boards, and within about 2 weeks, the funds are available to the county. And so at that point, items can begin to be ordered and procured, and because some of these specific items require lead times 6 to 8 weeks, that we need to be ready to receive them, order them in advance, and once we get them, we still have a lot of work to do. We have to configure each and every device, and you're talking hundreds of devices here. They have to be configured. We have to put our protocols on there for safety and for security. And so all that work still has to be done on them before they're even ready to be installed in place. And as our IT department is very capable of doing so much work, we need to afford them the opportunity to work it into their schedules, not treat it as a hair-on-fire emergency at the last minute.
That's correct. So to not act on this in November is potentially reckless. If we waited till December, board members, there's almost a whole month from the point that you approve this for us. There's almost a month delay before Mr. Eklund and Mr. Brath can actually act on this approval. So by using lottery funds, you have to build in at least a 3 to 5 week period of just bureaucratic management before action can be taken. And we just really felt that to delay this any further, had it been local capital, we could move much more quickly. But since it's lottery, we have to be very thoughtful. And so that's why the urgency. We really felt as though it was worthwhile to bring it to your attention this evening and not wait another month and add 4 more weeks to the potential risk of us losing over $500,000 of federal E-rate dollars and depriving our students and our teachers and other employees or just keeping them, mitigating the chances that we'll run into end-of-life concerns with so much of our equipment. So forgive us for this rather unorthodox approach. Mr. Brath and I sometimes have to do this. 2019 has been a year where he and I have sometimes had to make some decisions that in the best interest of our students and our community, we felt as though we needed to move forward with this, and we're happy to answer any questions. Take your time. We want you to be comfortable with determining how you want to approach this.
Mr. Brath?
Go ahead, Betty.
First of all, I'm sorry that we're going to have to delay some of our capital needs with this. However, for the last couple of years, I've been worried when I see all the red that comes up. And so I'm glad that we're finally moving forward and doing what we have to do, because I'd also hate to lose the $500,000 that the E-funds are supplying to us. I endorse moving forward with this so that we can get security. And I also think that this would then help with what the individual schools are trying to do for the testing that we're working on, to try and get the classrooms ready for the individual testing so that we have, they don't have to move into a gym to be tested and things like that. So I think this will be proactive. Thank you.
John, will you go back to the slide on the building needs, please? So there's nothing set in stone. I mean, at any given time, HVAC for Vast Lakeview Elementary could go down, or any one of those urgent need items there that we see.
Fire alarm system.
Basically, we're robbing one side to pay another side, really. And we have no choice. We have to have IT infrastructure to keep the district going in every single classroom, in every single building. So I'm wondering, can we continue to impress upon the commissioners, possibly to help with some of our premium dollars that we're getting from our bond money? We've got to come up with some type of plan so that we don't continue to come back. Because what happens if something goes out, a couple of those items, we're back trying to vote and determine where our dollars are going to come from to try to get what we need. We can't have cold buildings going into winter months, so.
Well, and Mr. Brath, if you could ensure that you keep us updated on any of these items on the list that we may have to delay for now, but if there's any change in status, if you can make sure you let us know so that we can have those conversations with the commissioners as needed so that we can move some of these more quickly if need be.
We'll do that.
Well, this, along with Ms. Thompson, this just goes right to the 20-year program that's been put together that Mr. Brath has shown us exactly what's going to be needed over the course of the next 2 decades. And we've gone to the commissioners multiple years now and not received much response when it comes to beginning to fund these capital needs. So, as you said, we're robbing Peter to pay Paul with this, that, yes, the money is there for us to use to make sure we can use the E-rate money to the best way it can, but that does not solve our problem at any of these other schools. And if we wake up tomorrow morning and there's no heat at Carthage, someone has to take care of it. So we'll be going back to our commissioners on a more regular basis to say we've got to take care of some of these capital needs. On another note, the slide that shows what we actually are getting in lottery funding is a real eye-opener for a lot of people. I hear over and over, why don't y'all use your lottery funds and build these buildings? Well, our lottery funds don't amount to much. I see Mr. Cox nodding in agreement. What was it, 860,000 is our estimate?
This year.
Yes, yes. So if you think you're helping our schools by buying lottery tickets, it's not helping our Moore County schools a great deal.
Well, and remember that we are not eligible for the need-based
That's exactly
construction
right,
piece
as a
of the
Tier
lottery
3 county.
funds. Yes, so we're not eligible for that. So while other counties may get additional for their construction, we are not.
I just don't want us to go back and have commissioners, and I want them to visit our schools, but I don't want them to visit like they had to for Aberdeen and Southern Pine schools to show the problems that we were having there to get new schools.
As an emergency,
As
you're
an
saying,
emergency.
yeah, rather to be more
Right.
planful.
And I look at this as we have no choice, and we're gonna have to depend on the commissioners for years. I've been hearing them say, if you really have an emergency, we'll take care of it for you. But when you have an emergency, you can't close school down for a month to take care of it. That's why we're asking for additional funds in advance to make sure this doesn't happen, but,
Trying to plan.
we have no choice. We gotta do it.
Yeah, and I would say that too. I mean, we really just don't have a choice when we're not given the funds to do it. We have to find funds to do those things. What kind of concerns me is that fire alarm system for the entire school. That one, like, just kind of shout out at me. That's a little concerning, but I know that you'll keep us up to date on that, but.
Ask me, John, if the fire control system goes out in the school, can we continue to have students in the school?
You have to establish fire watch monitors in order to do that. It can be done.
We'll have to impose upon teachers and staff members to go yet another mile on behalf of our children, and I'm sure they will.
Well, I think,
May I make a motion, Madam
waiting,
Chair?
yes.
I move that the school board waive first reading and move to approve the allocation of $744,500 from North Carolina Education Lottery Fund balance for the refresh of technology infrastructure and to postpone whatever priority capital projects may be necessary to offset the expense.
Second.
any further comments, questions? I would just like to add that I know this brings closure to something that we have needed closure to, and I know Mr. Eklund would like us to move forward so that he can plan with his staff about how to start the installation once all the materials are ordered and arrive in the late winter and spring. And, you know, I know that it does delay some of our other needs, but we have to weigh our student and staff ability to access the content and the work that they need to do at this point. So we've been talking about this for a year and a half, so it's time. It's time to move forward.
Longer than that.
All those, yes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you, board members. Madam Chair, with your permission.
Yes.
Last week, Mr. Barath was out of town, and we also had a lot of other business. So your monthly update on school construction projects has been postponed until this evening. Mr. Barath has a lot of photographs that he's going to move through with dispatch.
I'm before I take my time.
And
We want to see the
Dispatch.
photographs.
and also he's going to come up with a new one for McDeeds Creek Elementary School. I think it's 3 months in a row now that the intro to McDeeds Creek has got Dr. Bob right in the middle of the photo. Maybe we could just come up with one where we've got the principal or the chair in the middle of the photo. Mr. Barath, if you would, please update the board.
Thank you, Dr. Grimson, and I will update this. Every day I've gone out to the McDeets Creek to take a new picture of it. It's always been overcast and rainy. I need to go out there on a nice sunny day and get a picture of the new school for this. But McDeets Creek Elementary, good news, winding down. It seems like a long process. The contractor punch list, they've indicated they've completed all items on the building, and the back check of the deficiencies is currently underway. We are ongoing with our training on the systems at the school, most recently mechanical system trainings this week. The substantial completion, that's a huge mile marker in a project. That means that the building is really officially ours. Utilities included, operational priority, et cetera. And so we are trying to get to that before Thanksgiving. Enough's enough. We want to get to that point. We're all working towards that. The site will continue to have some deficiencies due to the weather that cannot be corrected until the spring. The plants that have died, they're all under warranty. No worries about that. They were scheduling to replace them here this week. Again, weather permitting, could slide into next week. And then final road safety improvements, turn lanes and other work out on Camp Easter Road would be January of 2020. The following budget items have remained unchanged. We're still sitting on $1.5 million withholding on the contractor, pending all resolution, all items are truly complete. And our change this time is our furniture, fixtures, equipment, technology items are all purchased at this time. So we're complete with that process for it.
I need to interrupt you just one moment. I went to a program at McDeeds Creek last Thursday, and I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. It is beautiful.
I wish I could take all the credit, but I can't. Many people had their hands in that. The staff at the school.
And we're
the
still going to
staff,
withhold,
principals.
and we're still going to withhold that 1.5 million until this work is done. So thank you, Ms. Carter. It is beautiful, and there's a lot about it that we're very proud of, but there are some things that we're going to hold the contractor accountable for until that work is completed. And fortunately, though, the function of the school is not hampered significantly, although there is one part that is. So thank you.
Aberdeen Elementary, moving out there again. Chair Wallenmiller, Vice Chair Carter joined Dr. Grimmis and I last week on a tour of this campus as well as Southern Pines under construction. Enjoy the opportunity and extend it as always to other board members as you'd like to go and see the facilities. Happy to do that. This is an overhead of the progress. It's, about a week and a half ago. The orientation of the site to your right is going to be Highway 5. So that little stem coming off, that's a new road that would come in off of Highway 5 to give you orientation. You can see the colored sections on there are the roofing going down, the metal roofing on the building, so you can see the progress we're starting to make around that. And the site's starting to take shape. You can begin to see the outlines of various parts of it. Again, looking at the building from that direction from the northeast, looking at it, there's the entry as you come around the building. Further back, now you can see the main road on the right side, and you can see in front of the building the carved out loop lane starting to take shape around that.
And I just want to say, while driving up to the building, it was very
Breathtaking.
impressive. Yeah, breathtaking is a good word. It really just is a beautiful structure for that land.
Great job. I get to go experience all that so often. The coming around the building, you can see the gym form there in the middle, starting to take with a roof on there, so you get a feel what the finish is. The media center's on the left, the gym is in the middle, and the cafeteria is on the right. In front of all that would be the bus drop-off pickup loop area, and we're starting to come around the side where you're seeing the classroom wings to the back. The grade levels from the three wings coming out and the splayed courtyards between them. And again, finishing up back where we started on the loop around there. From pedestrian level, this is looking across the bus parking lot at the cafeteria on the right and the gym on the left. And on the other side, this is the media center on the left and the gym shape on the right to give you orientation. And looking towards the sun, it's always a hard shot to take of the main entry and the canopy out front where the pickup drop-off would be. Down between the classroom wings, inside a classroom, you can see the exposed timbers, the roof deck, the mechanical system in the background going in place in these spaces, and the partitions between the classrooms are starting to go up in various locations. Down the main hallway through the building, you can begin to see some of the color in the terrazzo. They've started putting the terrazzo down in its rough form and starting to grind away at it to get it to its finished, polished appearance. And so that's starting to really liven the space up, as you can see here in the cafeteria, with the terrazzo pattern in place there. Starting to install it along the hallways. And so Aberdeen Elementary, original completion date by contract was January 24th, 2020. The contractor's schedule, as reported previously, slipped to March 6th. By contract requirement, they were to put together a recovery schedule, which they have done and demonstrated how they're going to recover to the January 24th deadline. This is going to require a lot of attention, a lot of effort by the contractor to recover that number of days. The design team and staff here, we are monitoring this very closely, weekly, and multiple times a week to check on the progress of the school to see if they are holding to the recovery schedule dates that they had established. 83% of the construction timeline is passed and 66% has been paid. So there's a large gap between there. You usually like to see those within about a 5% difference. So they have a lot of work by the work complete at 66% in a short amount of time to get to January 24th, and we'll continue to monitor and report to the board any changes to that. And again, none of the remaining project contingency inflation funds have been utilized at this time at the project. Southern Pines Elementary. Very wet out there. I spent my day out there today. Really, no one's out there working today, believe that. However, they made great strides in a lot of work they've done out there. They are ahead of schedule right now, as they reported this morning to us. So what you're looking again is an overhead aerial. Carlisle Extension is to the bottom of the screen to give you orientation. So the front of the building is at the bottom. That's a single-story K through 1 classroom wing. The connector between the two, that's your media center, art room, project room, and then in the top of the screen coming across, those are your 2-story classroom wing along with the gym and cafeteria. So you have an idea on the site what you're looking at. Looks like a nice flat site, but we all know it's not. So if you're looking at it now from up on the Carlisle side, looking back at the site, that's what you'd see coming across there. And you can see their 2-story wing on the back is up to bearing height for the first floor. Already the trusses are in today when I went out there. The front of this, the single-story part, has the corridor walls already up and the perimeter walls are just about wrapping up. So looking down across the gymnasium in the foreground there and looking towards that 2-story wing.
When were these pictures taken?
These pictures were about a week and a half.
Yeah, I would add, there's been substantial additional work that's been done since these photos were taken. So as impressive as these photos look, the week and a half since they were taken, there's been a lot of work done.
And all those floor trusses are in place.
Yeah, all the trusses are in place.
So
to
you can see them
start
starting here.
setting up the second floor.
So looking down into the upper level, so this is your at the single-story area, looking at that, down towards, and you can see kind of that outdoor amphitheater that's been set up in between there. Again, just some more images of the progress of the walls going up, the steel getting set. Again, this is another more recent picture we quickly put in here of the trusses already in place. Looks dynamic. Hate covering it all up. The gym walls are going up right now. 2 walls are completed to height. The scaffolding is down now that you can see up in this picture from merely a week and a half ago. They're done. This was the corner of the site and low part where all the stormwater goes. We have a 24-foot high retaining wall system that is complete now. Across here, the picture does not do this justice. Seeing it in person really gives you a sense of the challenge of that site. The playfield would be beyond it to the left. And on the Southern Pines project, the completion date is September 17th, and as I mentioned, they are currently running ahead of schedule. And by looking at the workflow today on their construction management plan, they have days they will continue to pick up as they continue moving forward. That means the school will open in January 2021, as we discussed previously. 26% of the timeline has passed. The construction pay is at 24%. Again, a good indicator that the pace is keeping up with the work completed. And the project has not used any contingency or inflation funds. And again, as we mentioned and discussed before about the opening mid-year, this will have an impact to the savings from McDeeds Creek. Northmore, I'll have to find a pretty picture to put in here to lead it off at some point. Looking down at the site, all the remediation of poor soils has been completed. At this time, they are getting ready to come out of the ground. On the right side, we'll see some better pictures of the first foundation retaining wall. They're starting to pour and put in place out there, but again, tight site, a lot of work going on, most of it in the gym area at this time. So it gives you an idea of the site as it steps down coming across, and all the soil grading to rough grade is complete, and they're ready to start cutting in foundations. They have begun pouring the foundation for the large retaining wall because there's a lower level where the mechanical systems will reside, and they got the reinforcing already up in that, and they're set to pour that wall. Weather delayed them right now, so hopefully they'll get it done in the next few days. And you can see how that starts to take shape around the lower level. The up by the administration building, the footing's already getting cut in and poured, so they're getting ready to put everything in place there. And inside the locker room, again, start off with very nice big pictures of the space, and now it's gotten very crowded in there with all the walls and everything. So the progress has been ongoing in there, getting all the ceiling systems in place, mechanical systems, electrical systems completed, finishing out all the block, getting ready for terrazzo to go down in there. More electrical there, mechanical system completion. They are running at the gym addition. The overall project is August 9th, but the work on renovating in the locker rooms is to be done at the end of December, by the end of December. And so that means we're working towards getting beneficial use of it for the Northmore community and staff here beginning in January. So that is what they have no slippage of days available to them anymore to meet that date. Everything has to happen as planned. And so they are working very hard to make that happen for the school so they can come back from the Christmas break and have use of those locker room areas.
John, the good news is that it's not contingent on the weather. It's work that they can continue with the weather being what it is.
It's all inside. 28% of the overall timeline has passed on the project at this time. They're 21% paid, so good comparable. And again, this is a similar slide to last time, so I don't want to forget yet, as we talked about the soils. We are waiting for all the verification signed dump fees to make sure we account for all the accurate yardage that was removed and replaced to see where that goes. There seems to be indication it's going to be maybe a little less, which is good because that left only $642, and we'd like to have a little more. And then the electrical requirement, we have begun to get those prices finalized from the contractors and the engineers to get that one moving. And it's going to be close to the estimated amount there. We think it might just be a little less. So again, at this time, we have not used any contingency or inflation identified funds outside the award of contract for this project either. Pinehurst Elementary. Haven't had anything really put up on this one for a while. So we don't have any real pictures yet because the work's just about to get underway out there. With the board approval, the notice to proceed had been issued on October 15th for them to begin their work. The duration of the project is 511 days, which makes a completion date of March 8th of 2021. They already had installed their silt fencing around the site and starting to get perimeter fencing up and around it to secure it. Thomas Construction had made their application as I was preparing this to the state to begin demolishing selected buildings, and the state has issued approval to them. They were anticipating beginning to demolish the first structure, starting to demolish it this Thursday, but with weather delay today and other things that were not able to get done, that time may move out, and as the date is set, I will notify all the board of what that date is when it begins. During the project here, we found that after the award that the design team and staff had omitted from the project bid and award the abatement of asbestos-containing materials in 2 buildings. The gymnasium had some in there, and the old part of the main building where the auditorium and the old classrooms are had some. We're in the process of obtaining proposals to abate all those materials out there. We will bring to the board in December the results of those for a recommendation for award. And there is going to be a cost to this. It is going to be in excess of the superintendent's authority of $50,000. We don't yet have a firm cost on it at this time, but we will present and lay out the methodology to fund it when we do present it to the board in December. So with that, that's the update on all the construction projects, and if you have any questions.
I just want to thank you for bringing these to us monthly. When we don't have an opportunity to see each of the projects, it's nice to see how they're progressing. And hopefully that's interesting for the public too, who some of these sites are not easy to get to, so, or to see from the street. So I appreciate seeing them. Are there any questions, comments?
Just like grade school, show and tell.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
All right. Do we have any superintendent's report today?
Madam, not so much a report, but a statement. I'm giving some thought to these words, engage, inspire, succeed. And when I think of all of our employees in Moore County Schools, and specifically our leadership team, our principals and our district administrators, I think of words like professionalism, leadership, devotion to students. And then there's one person, as I ponder this former member of our leadership team, I think that additional thoughts such as love of country, love of family, dear friend. And so I want to close our meeting tonight, or at least my portion, on just thinking of Rose Cooper. Rose fit these descriptions and so many other words. And we lost Rose this past week. She passed away. She had a 2-round fight with cancer, and she knocked it to the mat a few years ago, and it got up off the mat and came back here in the last few months. But as recently as last week, a couple members of the leadership team, some of her closest friends, were able to visit her, one of which visited her, two of which visited her, at least 2 of which visited her in hospice. She was still Rose, gracious, dignified, funny, healthy perspective on life, and always thinking about other people ahead of herself. And so I just want to use this opportunity to reaffirm the love of our leadership team in our school district for Colton and the family, our commitment to keep them in our prayers in these coming days as we all prepare to bid our farewell and memorial observances this coming weekend. And if we could just have a supplemental moment of silence, I'd like us to reflect on Rose Cooper, her life, who she was as a person, and her contributions to Moore County Schools. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Grimacy. Any board comments? Dr. Brown?
I just had one, but it's going to be directed to Dave. David there. I just wanted to say I hope Charles would be proud of where we are, where we're going. I know he doesn't like the fuss. He never did. So naming the wing after him, I know he'd probably be like, stop. But I think that's the least we could do for him and what he did and what he, how he served us. So thank you for letting us be a part of his life. And I'm just honored to know him, and I'm honored to know you, and I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Ms. Caldwell. I do have a few comments, if you'll indulge me. Oh, did you have something to say too?
I do.
Oh, you do?
I do, I'm prepared.
Okay, well, you.
Okay, yeah. Wanted to say thank you to Dr. Locklear, Dr. Johnson, Dr. Metcalf, Our principals, Dante Poole, Christina Larita, Marcy Cooper, and Jenny Wiley, who have shared with us last week and again tonight the curriculum and instructional department plans that are already underway to move our 4 underperforming schools to a place where we, along with the students, parents, faculty, and curriculum department, will all feel pride and accomplishment for the progress that is sure to be made. We already know that lots of hours of hard work have gone on in these schools and that many programs have been set in place to facilitate improved scores. However, we are also mindful that these state-mandated grades do not accurately represent the accomplishments of our children and teachers. All of us would agree that there's much learning in life that cannot be measured on a standardized test. One of the most commonly asked questions during the last few months has been, how do we plan to bring up school scores? The extensive presentation by Dr. Locklear and staff last week goes a long way in explaining this intensive process. His presentation, as well as what we have approved tonight, is available online for those who wish to review it. Additional information from each school is also online. Whether the plans call for additional tutoring or small group flex time activities or extended and in-depth projects and AIG classes, the plans are in place and we are glad to share. We are and will continue to be proud of the learning accomplished in each and every school in Moore County, and we welcome your continued interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carter.
You got me started.
I would like to reflect a little bit on what we've accomplished over the last 2 years of work through the bond referendum, the quarter-cent sales tax, and most recently with redistricting. I'm in awe, actually, of what all we've been able to accomplish. We have 5 major construction projects underway, and thank you for sharing them with us again today, Mr. Barath. These projects are expected to ease overcrowding and provide updated facilities for our students and to give them what they need to learn and to thrive. We've also set the district lines to balance the use of all of our schools in Moore County more appropriately. Even with all that we've accomplished, we must continue to be diligent in monitoring space, safety, health, and modernization needs across the rest of our county and the rest of our schools. As a board, it is important for us to retain a long-term view of what our facility needs are and take steps in the short term to meet them. There are 2 key items we must address in the coming months that I just want to remind you all. First, we talked about this a little bit earlier today, we must keep an eye on our annual and future planned capital and maintenance needs as identified in the capital improvement plan that Mr. Barath keeps and has shared with us and updated with us for the past 3 years. Second, we must set a process to review and update our master facilities plan to look at some of these big picture needs for our growing county, particularly at our middle and high schools. Much of what was identified during our redistricting, but even before that, we have some needs that we know are there. Both of these plans need careful review and engagement in thoughtful dialogue with the county commissioners on a process and funding options to make headway with these needs. As our county grows and more families with school-aged children arrive, we must protect and invest in maintaining our current educational assets to serve students safely and with proper infrastructure now and for decades to come. Is there a motion to close? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.